Jay Edwards, Spry Training. Today I have a question from a subscriber called Swag King 43. Hey, can I get some tips on getting my 40 times down? I'm at 4.6 flat and I want to be around 4.55 area. I have to move from linebacker to safety. My vertical is 44, but I like to get a bit higher. I do a lot of explosion workouts and hamstrings, and I have hard time stretching since football season has ended. I seem to always be stiff. Any help? Thanks. Okay, Swag 43. First things first. You have to stretch. There's no doubts about that. I'll have a series of stretches I'll go through with you in great detail in just a sec. But stretching is very important, particularly for the hip flexors and your hamstrings and other areas of the quadriceps. Strengthening is another point you need to pay attention to, particularly hip flexors as well. And then stretching again. So I have a series of stretching, strengthening and stretching parameters I'd like to discuss with you. I'd like to talk to you about your technique. I don't know how tall you are, I don't know how you run. I'm just gonna sort of go with the standard approach to how I coach my sprint athletes. So depending on your height, this will affect your biomechanics. If you're a taller person, you over say 6'2", you'll probably struggle in the initial phase, which is the explosive phase of the sprint. So the explosive phase is the initial phase, so doing a lot of plyometrics. Doing a lot of movements which involve type 2 muscle fibers will help you to develop this explosive nature. The dry phase, using a lot of upper body strength. So the aerodynamic of how you start the sprint is very important. You need to make sure you're in a stance where you can explode and then you can drive. This technique is very important in order for you to decrease your time. The stride phase isn't so much important because it's just a 40. Let's first look into the stretches you can do. First stretch is a Thomas stretch. This stretch is a very good stretch for your hip flexors. If you see, as I'm lying on this table here, I have the leg which is coming up to my chest. You pull it in as tight as you can. And you drastically progress the stretch, so you pull it in even more over a period of time for about 30 seconds. And then the lying leg, the leg which is pointing down onto the floor, hanging from the table, you want to sort of push down your toes and force the hip flexors down. So you'll get stretches on both parts of the hip flexors, and even when you swap over, the movement will benefit both sides of the hip flexor muscles. The second stretch is designed to opening up the hips. When you do place the feet down, try and keep your arms inside of your knees and push your knees ever so slightly to the side, whilst pushing your belly button away from the arm. That's pushing the knee out outwards. The final stretch is one where you are lying on the table. As you can see, as I'm lying on the table, one foot is then hanging on the floor, stabilizing me. The leg on the table is the one which is being stretched, and it's the hip flexors muscles which are stretched the most. So if you push into the stretch and progress into it and push up as you do it, you will get the feel of what's going on and where you're tightest the most, and then you can move in terms of range of motion to increase the stretch and what's best suited for you. Strengthening techniques I like to share with you for increasing hip flexors. You can do exercises with resistance band. The first one I have, where as you can see I've got it around my knee, and I'm bringing my knees as high as possible up to my chest, paying attention to efficiency and biomechanics. So technique, so keep the knees as aligned as possible, straight down the body. Attaching the resistance band to a stable point. Then putting your feet into the resistance band and bringing the hip flexors up. So flexation of the hip and then pushing out probably about 70 to 80% of max effort into the resistance band. You can then develop strength and increase the resistance by using a second or third band as you wish. You mentioned you're strengthening your hamstrings. Very important part to strengthen in terms of sprint and developing speed. The whole posterior chain is very important in development in terms of strength and power, and possibly some hypertrophy to help you develop speed. So all posterior chain muscles from the hamstring going up to glutes, up into the back and the spinal region, and also around the scapula. In terms of sprinting and biomechanics, the hamstrings are at best putting power out in the trail limit. This is when you have the mechanics to then push over the power into the drive forwards from the hamstring. So yes, develop the hamstring, but be sure to making sure that the economy of the trail leg is being looked at, and you're actually bringing your trail leg back in the right position it needs to be in order to use the power that the hamstring will be giving you, that you can progress it into your sprint. Other than doing all these movements, you can look into your squats. I'm guessing you're doing squats, so deep back squats, particularly deep below parallel, so you engage gluteus maximus as much as you can. Jump squats will help with your explosive nature of your type 2 muscle fibers. Sprints, of course, which is all this strengthening and stretching. You have to do the sprints to develop your power output. Considering you're a football player and you're focusing on just 40s, I would say probably doing 150 meters, 100-meter sprints, probably 6-7 of those, just to develop your power output and get you more efficient in terms of the power you can use to drive these mechanics.